This is a nice piece of black walnut. It measures roughly 10 inches this way and 63 inches that way, I believe. And in front of it, I have some ambrosia maple, and its measurement doesn't really matter. It's like 4 inches by a length, 70 inches, 72 inches. There is a little patch here, so it's not perfectly surfaced. So that's kind of where we're gonna start. We need 29 inches, give or take. Basically cut this in half after I get my nice edges. And we're making a knife block. It's a pretty neat design. There's flat 2 walls and you can look through it. And then it's got maple strips on the top and you can stick your knives in it. It's pretty simple, should be pretty easy. Step 1 is getting my walnut and maple boards milled up. Here we are again, running things through the planer. This time it has both plates on, which is nice. We get to use it the way it's intended to be used. And I removed those rough patches that were sitting there, and we're good to continue. Or so I thought. When I flipped the planer, the handle sticks out too far, so I'm going to have to remove that. Now I try a couple different methods to do that, using a clamp, but I ended up settling on using a little square that I stuck inside an Allen key to give me the leverage I needed, but I did get it off. And now we're moving on to the jointer to get my edge face nice and flat. I can't really do the bottom because this is wider than 8 inches and that's the capacity of my jointer. But I made quick work of getting it mostly flat. And then I had to repeat the same process with the maple. And that was a little tricky because that was a pretty long, it was a bit awkward. Done long boards on this yet, so it was a bit awkward. I'm then going to use my table saw and clean up my other rough face on both my maple and my walnut piece. You know, there's just something not right about those fingers. They're just way too bent and crooked. Next, we measure our boards at 29 inches. We make our marks and we make the cut. And now we have the piece of wood we need to make the knife block. However, it's not flat enough, so I repeat the process by running it through the jointer one more time and also through the table saw to just tighten up my flatness. Figured out the plan. As we can see here, making sure you can see that, this is going to sit in a rabbet and it'll be about 1 inch. 1 inch is about the thickness of my material. So to fit a 10.5 inch knife, maximum capacity, I need it to be 11.25 inch. Because this is 10.25, so that's going to give it, that'll be 11.25 plus the 1/4 inch at the top, give or take. It's actually probably going to be a bit taller than that, which is okay. This is also not exactly an inch, slightly less than an inch, so I go over. That's better. I gotta go over. Now the thickest knife I believe is 3 inches, so I was gonna make this space 3.5 inches going in, 1/2 inch on each side, so 4.5 inches for this bottom guy here. And I want it to be book matched. So, okay, so this being the outside, and I said 11.25. I think I'm gonna shoot over. I'm gonna shoot for 11.5. Now, if I make my line on 11.5, this will be bottom. And then in here is going to be my 4.5 inch piece, which If I'm measuring 4.5, so we're gonna have our little guy here. It's gonna be the width of the blade. So half for 16. Okay, I'm just gonna measure from the other side and go 11.5 in this way. And this is gonna be my bottom as well. So now I used my miter gauge to do this cut because I wanted to ensure a nice straight square cut, and at some point in time somewhere this goes wrong, but more on that later. I think it's something else. Oh, you guys are probably staring at a saw blade right now. As you can see, I got my nice book match plan. All my lines look pretty tight, pretty good. This is gonna go like this. This will go like essentially here, and this will go essentially here. I got two really straight lines, but I did not cut my one end flat. Dang, I forgot I had a crappy end. And I think this is where this entire project went wrong. Okay, this is bottom, and their outsides. So the plan is to put in the dado stack. Yesterday, or previously in the video where we left off, I was going to be figuring out something to do with a jig to run through the table saw to do my dado fingers on that. It's getting colder. Tomorrow's minus 42 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit. I don't know how it translates. I didn't look ahead to do that. My second time using my dado blade. It's quite fun. I quite enjoy it. There's a little button inside of there that you press. I was doing that with my left hand, and then you just use the wrench, pull towards yourself with your right hand, and you loosen that up, and you do the exact opposite of that to put on the new blade and get it nice and tight. And then you throw on the dado specific. And now I'm just cutting my starter line in there because I'm going to use that top block and try use it to keep my fingers in place and evenly spaced. It didn't work perfectly well, and you can see there's a little bit of wiggle in it when I go to push it through, but it worked fairly well. That's something I need to almost do next time, is spend a bit more time on the jig to allow me to have better repeatability in doing this process, or whatever process I'm doing. And that's a big thing I learned, is make your jig properly. And if you're wondering why there's two screws sticking out, that's to maintain the balance of the bars. And as you can see, most of my lines line up pretty good, but it's not quite perfect. Now I'm going to trim it to its final size after putting my normal blade back on, but I realized a mistake. I forgot to make my bottom rabbet to have the bottom piece of wood sit inside of my walls. So I had to recut that. Well, not recut that, but I had to cut that using just my normal blade Yeah, this took a little bit longer. And next we moved on to getting our finger pieces cut. So I took my maple and I cut it into slightly oversized strips so I could get, it'll be a bit safer running it through the table saw, and I can get, 2 fingers from each board. Now, I do it this way, and I kind of remeasure every time using a setup block thing. Very inefficient. And time for a dry fit. It's a little bit wonky and sticking out right now, but you know what? That's foreshadowing for you. Glue, and then some corner clamps. Yoink. Lots of glue there. Lots of glue here. Hoping this is coming out okay. And let's just... Okay, that should be better. I need my little glue brush. You guys are happy? I got a silicone glue brush now. Hopefully people are happy. I know we probably don't need it, but I'm going to do a bit more. I really want this to stay together. This is not a joint I've ever done, so I don't have absolute faith in it, but I'm sure it's fine. Okay, we got some good glue up there. Just this here, and we're going to take this guy. I was wondering if I just do 2 on one side. This actually feels kind of smarter to me. So line this guy up like this. Just clamp the thing already. Stop talking about what you're going to do and do it. You're running out of time. And then I started sanding down all my little fingers so that I could get them into their slots a little bit easier, got rid of some of those burn marks. And then I decided to just recut all of the fingers because I didn't like how they were fitting. And I used my fence and the settings on the fence. And could you believe it that they actually fit and I didn't have to measure it every time? And this is the way I should have done it in the first place. And I'm trying to cast a spell right now. I'm a timber wizard or something. I should use my brain more. Now the audio is probably not going to be too good because it's just my phone. I don't have my actual audio recorder in here. I'm only putting glue on the outside because when I squish these down, it's a really tight fit. I want to essentially force the glue to squish out on the outside so I can just wipe it off, whatever excess there is. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. It's going to be and then after I have this all done, I'm going to fully sand my exteriors and get it all nice and flat. And I was thinking of actually just making a second one. That was always the plan, but for a bit there I was thinking. And now I flush cut my pieces, although I'm terrible with this saw. And it took a really long time. And then I just sanded it all smooth. And here mistakes were made. I thought this was going to be a great idea because I could just get the bottom all nice and flat against my reference edge. But this ended up causing it to be crooked because my reference edge wasn't flat, and there was some sap. You can see a little jitter there on the actual jointer, and that caused it to bounce up a bit, and I ended up making a wedge and completely, in my opinion, destroying this, but I didn't even realize it until I ran it through the table saw to get this beveled edge on the side, and this is me realizing the mistake and having no way to fix it except to make another one. Though I didn't want to throw this away, so I did still finish sanding it, oiling it, and getting it completed. And all in all, it looks pretty nice, and it still functions the way it's supposed to, except it's crooked in every single dimension, which is kind of not what I wanted. But I'm going to let myself finish this off.
Okay. I made the second one. It's very cold. Let's talk about squares. I have a few. I got this big guy, little guy, this guy, another little guy, even smaller guy. And those are pretty much all my squares. But I also have things like these that can register a flat edge and give you a straight line. Neither of these are square. This one, when registered flat on here, sticks out a bit. On this side, almost 1/8 of an inch. Let's talk about this one. That's more than 1/8 of an inch. And if we go to this side, that's pretty terrible too. Well, what is that? That's a 1/2 inch. Are all of my squares wrong? Or is there a tool that's wrong? Something's not straight. And the reason why I say something's not straight, a tool, is because of this. Now, that shouldn't have been possible, but then also I would have had the same thing happen to this if I did not put these little tiny spacers in here when gluing up. And you can see there's a little crack all the way down the bottom. Now, I know this is like pretty flat, and I know why these aren't straight. The reason why these aren't straight is because my spacer block that I used, wherever it is now, I don't know where it is anymore, it was thinner than this piece of wood, because when I was gluing up this one, something happened to make this thinner, like this bottom piece thinner. I don't know where or when, but it ended up being thinner, which is pretty lame. My guess is my miter saw is the culprit, because I cut these straight on the miter saw. Or it should have been 90 to that, but I think it's off. I gave the choice to the person buying this, and they chose, drum roll, not this one. They chose this one. But this holds my squares quite nice. So this one, it is. I need to re-throw some sandpaper on here, and there's a couple of rough spots I don't like. And then re-throw down some oil, and I'm done. Or this non-square thing is going to be my square holder. I really don't have any other use for it. I don't want to sell it to anyone because it's total junk, and I don't want to. Give it away to anyone because it's total junk. So I'm just going to use it as a square holder, and that's that. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe. Okay, bye.